My boyfriend told me to decline a $120,000 promotion because it would make him feel inadequate. He said I should turn down the job and accept a receptionist role instead. So, I promoted him to an X. Ryan and I had been together for 2 years. I worked at a pharmaceutical company as a research coordinator, earning $70,000 a year. He worked at his father's plumbing supply business as a sales manager, making $50,000. He always said money didn't matter, that we were a team. I trusted that. Last month, my boss called me into her office and offered me the director of clinical trials position, $120,000 salary, a company car, 4 weeks of vacation, and stock options. I had worked 60-hour weeks for 5 years to earn it. I stayed late reviewing protocols, took weekend certification classes, and paid for my own flights to conferences to build connections. When I told Ryan that night, his expression shifted. Not excited, not proud. Something else. He said we needed to think carefully. I asked what needed thinking. He said the role would bring more pressure and longer hours, and that I was already tired from my current workload. He suggested I focus on our relationship instead of my career. I assumed he was worried about burnout, but then he listed other concerns. His mother wouldn't understand why I earned more. His brother would joke at family dinners. His friends would say he was less of a man. He used those exact words. He said I should consider how my success could affect how people saw him. I told him his public image was not my responsibility. That's when he became harsh. He said I was selfish, that relationships required compromise, and that his ex understood that the man should be the provider. He brought up the ex he once described as unambitious and dull. Suddenly, she was the example of a good partner. For a week, he sulked. He refused to celebrate with me or tell anyone about my promotion. When my parents called to congratulate me, he walked out. When my sister sent champagne, he called it unnecessary. He started sending articles about women who regretted prioritizing work, stories about successful women who ended up alone, and statistics about marriages where wives earned more. He bookmarked a blog post titled, "How to be a supportive partner without losing yourself," and left it open on my laptop. It was about women stepping back so their partners could feel secure. Then came the ultimatum. 3 days before I had to give my answer, Ryan sat me down and said he realized the promotion would ruin our relationship. If I accepted it, he would always feel inferior. His family would judge him. His coworkers would mock him. He said I needed to decline, for us and for our future. He even contacted his dad's friend who owned a dental office and arranged an interview for me as a receptionist. $35,000 a year. Predictable
Kids we
hours.
had never discussed.
Perfect for when we
I
had
said,
kids. Absolutely not. He said I was choosing money over love, that I was materialistic and power-driven, that no man wanted a woman who needed authority. He said his mother warned him I was too ambitious, his mother who never worked and spent her husband's money freely. That night, while he was at his friend's house, I packed my belongings, most of the apartment, since I paid for the furniture, the TV, and the kitchen appliances. He was left with his gaming chair and the old mattress he brought from his mother's place. He came home to an empty apartment and called me yelling, saying I was cruel and unstable, and that I would regret this when I was 40 and alone. He said no one wanted a woman who prioritized her job. I hung up and blocked him. But he didn't stop. The next morning, my phone rang from an unknown number. I ignored it. Then another unknown started. By the end of the day was Ryan crying, apologizing, begging to talk. The second accused me of being selfish and choosing money over our relationship. The third apologized again. The fourth called me childish. They alternated between angry and remorseful. Camila called that night to check on me. I told her about the voicemails. She said to save everything and not delete anything because I might need evidence later. I didn't want to think about things escalating, but I saved them anyway. Listening to his voice made my stomach twist. 3 days after I moved out, I was unpacking in my new apartment when the building phone rang. The security guard said someone named Ryan was there. My heart dropped. I asked how he knew my address. I'd been careful not to share it. The guard didn't know. He asked if he should let him up. I said absolutely not and told him Ryan was never allowed on the property. He said he would inform security and escort him out. I hung up shaking. Later that afternoon, my mom called sounding upset. Ryan's mother had called her crying, saying I broke her son's heart. She said I ruined his life by caring more about my job. My mom told her Ryan ruined the relationship by trying to control my career and make me turn down something I earned. She warned me that this might get worse before it got better because his family seemed unwilling to accept his behavior. The thought of dealing with all of them exhausted me. Monday morning, I started my first day as Director of Clinical Trials. I felt excited but drained from all the stress. My new office was on the 4th floor with large windows overlooking the city. I spent lunch just staring out at the view. This was the result of years of hard work, long hours, weekend classes, and conferences I paid for myself. I earned this job, and I felt proud. Around 2 o'clock, another director, Duncan Steele, stopped by. He introduced himself and offered advice on company politics and which department heads were helpful or difficult. He was friendly and respectful, which felt refreshing after months of Ryan's insecurity. We talked for about 20 minutes before he left. The next morning, I checked my work email and found a message from an unknown address accusing me of stealing from Ryan and damaging his belongings when I moved out. It said I was dishonest and people should know who I really was. My hands shook as I read it. I forwarded it to Laura Kerr in HR and explained the situation. I told her he had called from different numbers and showed up at my building. I wanted HR aware in case he contacted the company. Laura called within an hour and asked me to come to her office. She took detailed notes while I explained everything. She said the company had handled situations where personal issues affected workplace safety. She asked if I felt safe. I said I didn't think he'd physically hurt me, but I couldn't predict what he might do next. She documented everything and told me she'd notify security. That weekend, Ryan posted online about gold diggers who leave partners when they achieve success. He didn't use my name, but he tagged our mutual friends. I ignored it, but people started messaging me asking what happened. Some were worried, others wanted gossip. I didn't respond. Sunday, I met Camila for coffee and told her about the calls, Ryan appearing at my building, his mother calling my mom, and the fake email. She got angry and said Ryan's behavior was escalating. She told me to document everything and consider getting a lawyer or filing a complaint. The thought of legal action overwhelmed me. I just wanted peace. Monday morning, I had my first staff meeting with my new team. 12 coordinators reported to me. Standing at the front, reviewing our trials and deadlines, I pushed that thought aside and continued. Halfway through, I caught myself thinking Ryan might have been right Ryan's about me not handling the pressure. After the meeting, 3 coordinators stayed to ask questions. As I answered them, my confidence returned. I knew this work. I earned this job through skill and determination. Ryan's opinions no longer mattered. Tuesday afternoon, Ryan's brother Mark messaged me on Facebook saying I embarrassed their whole family and that Ryan deserved someone who appreciated him. I took a screenshot and saved it in the folder where I kept everything related to Ryan. Then I blocked Mark everywhere. There was nothing to say to someone who blamed me for Ryan's actions. 2 weeks into my new role, I was managing 3 major clinical trials. Trial A was a diabetes study with 200 patients across 15 sites. Trial B focused on autoimmune disorders with 90 patients at 8 sites. Trial C was a cardiovascular study with 350 patients at 20 tracking systems showing enrollment, adverse events, protocol deviations, and site performance. During my weekly meeting, my boss reviewed my dashboards for 5 minutes and said the system was exactly what the department needed. She asked if I could train the others to use something similar. I felt a genuine sense of pride, not to prove anything to Ryan, but because I was good at my job. Late Friday night, around 2 a.m., my phone rang from an unknown number. Half asleep, I answered. It was Ryan. He rambled that I never appreciated him, that he supported my career, and that he helped me get where I was. The revision of reality was alarming, but the time of the call worried me more. Was he drinking? Was he fixating? I hung up and blocked the number. I couldn't sleep again. The next week, I changed my phone number completely. I gave the new one only to my parents, my sister, and Camila. For 3 days, everything was quiet. No calls, messages from his family. No voicemails, and I hoped it was finally over. Thursday morning, Laura from HR called and asked me to come to her office. Someone had contacted the company's main line claiming I was involved in research fraud and endangered patients. They accused me of falsifying clinical trial data. None of it was true, but HR had to investigate any ethics complaint. She told me the matter was serious but procedural. My hands shook. I told her it was Ryan. She remembered our earlier conversation. Shortly after, I was in the HR conference. She came to my office afterward and said she gave a strong statement supporting my ethics and work. I could see she was concerned about the situation following me. She asked if I was okay. I said I was managing. That night, I lay awake until nearly 3 a.m., thinking about how Ryan's lies could jeopardize the career I spent 5 years building. Everything I earned could collapse because he was angry about salary differences. Around 11 a.m. the next day, Camila arrived with wine and takeout. She made me eat, then poured us drinks. She reminded me that the truth would come out and my record was solid. She said HR would see the pattern in Ryan's behavior. The investigation took 4 days. I felt like everyone knew and was silently judging me, even though no one said anything. Every glance felt like scrutiny. Duncan noticed I seemed stressed during a department meeting. Afterward, he asked if I wanted to get coffee. I told him everything. I agreed. At the shop downstairs, my promotion, the breakup, the harassment, and now the false complaint. Duncan listened, and then told me his ex-wife once tried to damage his career during their divorce by accusing him of stealing company information. It wasn't true, but he still went through a 3-week investigation. He said he recovered and rebuilt his reputation. He warned me that people like Ryan rely on their targets being too ashamed to fight back. They believe causing chaos will make you give up. He said the best approach was to document everything, cooperate fully with HR, and continue doing excellent work. The next morning, Laura A. called me into her office, holding a closed folder. She sat across from me, opened it, and showed the investigation summary she had prepared. The complaint was officially deemed malicious and unfounded, with no basis. She noted the timing aligned with my recent breakup and highlighted Ryan's documented harassment history. She looked me in the eye and suggested I consider consulting an attorney about Ryan's behavior, as the pattern of workplace interference combined with other contact was concerning. I thanked her for handling the matter professionally and returned to my office, feeling both relieved and apprehensive. The investigation had concluded, but Ryan clearly wasn't going to stop. During lunch, I called Camila and shared Laura I's advice about hiring an attorney. She immediately started searching for harassment lawyers locally and found Courtney Mahoney, who specialized in stalking and harassment cases and had strong reviews from women dealing with ex-partners. The consultation fee was $200, with a $3,000 retainer if I chose to hire her. My stomach sank at the cost, but Camila interrupted before I could protest, offering to lend me the money, saying my safety was worth far more than $3,000. I scheduled an appointment for Thursday and tried to focus on work. The rest of the day, Thursday arrived, and I drove to Courtney's downtown office near the courthouse. The office was small but professional, lined with law books and files stacked neatly on her desk. She appeared to be in her late 40s, with short gray hair and a no-nonsense approach that suggested she had handled similar situations many times. I handed over my folder containing all documentation, screenshots, the fake email, timeline of events, and notes from conversations. She spent 20 minutes reviewing everything while I nervously picked at my nails. Finally, she looked up and confirmed I had solid grounds for a restraining order based on Ryan's repeated contact, workplace interference, and escalating behavior. She explained the process, the expected timeline, and warned that filing might provoke Ryan before it protected me, as some people see restraining orders as a challenge. I asked if that meant I shouldn't file, and she clarified that I should proceed, but stay prepared. I spent that weekend reflecting on whether to pursue legal action. Part of me wished I could ignore Ryan and hope he'd stop, but another part knew hoping wasn't a plan. He had already shown he wouldn't stop on his own. On Saturday night, my sister called. I told her about my consultation with Courtney and my hesitation to make this public and official. She reminded me that staying silent never stops bullies. They push until someone pushes back. Ryan was already acting publicly by contacting my workplace and posting online. Making it official would provide actual protection. After our call, I knew she was right. I texted Courtney that I wanted to proceed with the restraining order. Monday morning, a LinkedIn notification made my stomach drop. Ryan had created a fake profile as Daniel Webb, claiming to be a former colleague from a research position I held 4 years ago. The profile was detailed, with a professional photo and work history. Daniel Webb posted a review accusing me of being unethical, difficult to work with, cutting corners on research protocols, and creating hostile environments. He included specific details about past projects and a disagreement with a former supervisor that only he could know, twisting facts to portray me as incompetent. My hands shook as I screenshot everything and reported the profile to LinkedIn, forwarding all evidence to Courtney. She responded within an hour, noting this strengthened our case by showing deliberate professional sabotage. She instructed me to document any shares or responses before LinkedIn removed the post, which they eventually did, while I saved multiple copies for evidence. That Wednesday, I received a text from an unfamiliar number. It claimed the sender wanted closure and a conversation, arguing I was unfair by shutting him out. I knew immediately it was Ryan. I didn't respond. Instead, screenshotting
Who confirmed
and
not
forwarding the
engaging
message
was correct
to Courtney and added it to our evidence file. That weekend, my parents visited. Over dinner at an Italian restaurant, my dad admitted he had never liked Ryan and believed he felt intimidated by me. My mom said she noticed I had minimized my successes around him, changing topics whenever work came up. I felt embarrassed, realizing I hadn't fully recognized it myself. My dad reassured me, proud of my choice to prioritize myself and my career, emphasizing that anyone worth being with would celebrate, not resent, my success. At work, I managed a critical trial enrollment deadline, coordinating 3 research sites to hit the target by Friday to secure funding. I spent the week in back-to-back meetings, reviewing protocols, troubleshooting, and motivating my team. The pressure was intense, but purposeful, proving Ryan's claims about my inability to manage stress were false. By Thursday, we exceeded our enrollment goal, and my boss emailed the executive team, highlighting our achievement. I felt proud, reflecting on how different life would have been if I had listened to Ryan and taken a lesser job. Friday, Courtney called to confirm she was filing the restraining order petition, compiling 2 months of documented harassment into a legal filing, including workplace interference, fake social media accounts, and the unknown number text. The court date was set for 3 weeks out. She warned me that being served might trigger escalation and advised caution. I thanked her, feeling both relieved and anxious. The next morning, I met with Laura in HR to inform her that the restraining order petition had been filed. She noted it aligned with previous complaints and established a clear harassment pattern, protecting both me and the company. She asked if security should have Ryan's photo, and I agreed. The discussion lasted 10 minutes, but left me reassured. 2 days later, Courtney updated me that the process server had delivered the papers to Ryan at his father's plumbing business. Ryan immediately left 3 angry voicemails for her, which she added to our evidence file. That evening, my dad received a call from Ryan's father, attempting to convince me to drop legal action. My dad firmly refused and warned he would document any further enabling behavior. I felt grateful for my parents' support. The next 2 weeks passed with no contact from Ryan, which made me anxious. Courtney explained this silence was common before court hearings. I remained vigilant, checking locks and looking over my shoulder. On Wednesday, I received a long email from Ryan's mother, pleading with me to reconsider, painting me as cruel. I forwarded it to Courtney, who added it to our evidence, noting family enabling patterns strengthen our case. Despite personal stress, work continued successfully. My team enrolled 212 participants. Duncan and I began weekly lunch meetings discussing work, providing a refreshing normalcy. 3 days before the hearing, Camila sent screenshots of Ryan's new Instagram account, posting photos from our relationship with false captions. I documented everything, emailed Courtney, made my account private, and blocked the new profile. Monday, my boss called to check on my safety after noticing the posts, ensuring security measures were in place. The conversation left me feeling supported. Facilities management reassigned my parking spot near the main entrance, and security received Ryan's updated photo. I felt anger and frustration at the necessity of these measures, but also gratitude for the company's protection. Thursday morning, Camila drove me to the courthouse. Courtney reminded me to stay silent unless spoken to. Ryan arrived with his father, unrepresented, seemingly treating the situation as a misunderstanding. The judge allowed both sides to present. Courtney presented our organized evidence: voicemails, texts, emails, fake social media accounts, and workplace complaints. Ryan attempted to argue he was rejected and retaliated against, but his statements contradicted his own claims. He also tried defending his mother's interference, which Courtney presented as part of the harassment pattern. The judge reviewed the evidence for 5 minutes and granted a 1-year restraining order, detailing prohibited actions and consequences. Leaving the courthouse felt surreal. Camilla hugged me, and I almost cried with relief. Courtney reminded me the order was only effective if violations were reported immediately. The following weekend, I stayed home, exhausted from months of harassment and legal proceedings. By Monday, I felt more like myself. Work was calmer, and I focused on preparing a presentation for the executive team. Laura Lay later informed me the investigation file officially closed. I asked if this meant he would finally face real consequences, and she said yes. Judges don't appreciate it when their orders are ignored so quickly. That night, I barely slept, worried Ryan might escalate or find another way to reach me. But my phone stayed silent, and I kept checking the screenshots to ensure they were still saved. Courtney submitted the violation report Wednesday morning and called that afternoon to tell me the court scheduled a hearing for the following week. She explained that Ryan would have to appear before the same judge who issued the restraining order and explain why he violated it. She warned me he would likely try to claim confusion or say it was some type of emergency. The hearing took place on a Tuesday morning, and I took a half-day off work to attend. Ryan arrived looking tense and defensive, sitting on the opposite side of the courtroom with his father next to him again. The judge called the case and asked Ryan directly using his father's phone when the restraining order clearly prohibited any form of contact. Ryan began saying he wanted closure and needed to explain how the court case affected his friendships. The judge interrupted and asked whether he read the restraining order that stated no contact meant exactly that, under every circumstance. Ryan got flustered and said he didn't think a single text counted as harassment. The judge's expression tightened as she told him the order was not a suggestion. It was a legal directive with consequences for violations. She issued a formal warning right there. She told Ryan that any further violation, no matter how small, would lead to immediate arrest and jail time. She explained she was giving him one final chance to understand that restraining orders exist to protect people from unwanted communication, regardless of intent. Ryan's face turned red, and he started to argue, but his father stopped him, and any future violation would be considered deliberate contempt. She dismissed the case, and I walked out feeling like I could breathe again. Courtney walked me to my car and said this was usually the moment when most people who engage in harassment finally understand the legal reality of their actions. She said some people don't stop until they hear a judge mention jail time. I thanked her for handling everything so professionally, and she told me to call immediately if Ryan attempted anything else. I drove back to work, feeling cautiously hopeful that maybe this situation was finally coming to an end. The stress from months of Ryan's behavior caught up with me, and I realized I needed support to process everything. I found Vanessa through my insurance provider and scheduled my first therapy session for the following Thursday. Making me feel less anxious, I told her everything, from Ryan's ultimatum about my promotion to the restraining order and the violation hearing. She listened carefully and then said something I hadn't considered. She told me Ryan's behavior had been emotionally abusive long before the harassment began. I had been so focused on the stalking and workplace issues that I never fully examined how he treated me during our relationship. Vanessa explained that demanding I decline my promotion was a controlling tactic meant to keep me dependent. She said the articles he sent and the pressure about his family's opinions were manipulative tools meant to make me doubt myself. Over the next several sessions, we explored how I minimized my own accomplishments to avoid triggering Ryan's insecurity. I told Vanessa how I stayed quiet when his family commented on my job,
why I
or how I downplayed my
for
achievements
managing
when his
Ryan's
friends
emotions
asked about
work.
my career. I said I thought I was being supportive. Vanessa shook her head and explained that I was sacrificing my own pride to protect his ego. She told me, healthy partners celebrate each other's success instead of asking the other person to shrink. I started crying because I realized how much energy I spent trying to make him comfortable instead of being proud of myself. She handed me tissues and said, recognizing these patterns was the first step toward healthier relationships. 3 months after the hearing, I was genuinely thriving at work. I managed 5 major clinical trials at the same time, and my team respected my leadership without me constantly having to prove myself. I stopped doubting every decision and learned to trust my expertise. The trials were running smoothly, with strong enrollment
the executive
and high
team
retention.
was impressed.
I realized I wasn't walking on eggshells anymore or worrying about Ryan's next move. The constant tension that followed me for months finally lifted, and I could focus fully on my work. My team began bringing me new ideas instead of just problems, showing they trusted my leadership. I took full lunch breaks without checking my phone constantly and actually enjoyed the coffee shop near the office. Duncan stopped by one afternoon and mentioned he'd heard through industry contacts that Ryan's father's business had lost a major contract with a regional hospital system. He said Ryan had been telling people it was somehow my fault for making his family look bad. I felt nothing except relief that his issues were no longer mine. Duncan asked if I was okay, and I told him honestly that I didn't care what happened to Ryan or his father's business. We grabbed coffee
nodded
and
and
talked
said
about
that was
new trial
probably
protocols.
the healthiest
Instead, reaction. I appreciated that Duncan never turned my situation into gossip or treated me differently because of it. He remained professional and supportive, without prying into my personal life, beyond ensuring I was safe. My sister visited for a weekend in early fall and told me within an hour that I seemed like myself again. She said I looked more confident and lighter than I had in years. We went shopping and had dinner at a nice Italian restaurant downtown that I could comfortably afford with my new salary. She ordered expensive wine, and I didn't even hesitate because I could genuinely treat myself now. Over dinner, she said she worried about me during my relationship with Ryan because I seemed smaller, less vibrant. I asked what she meant, and she said I used to talk about work with excitement. But during those 2 years, I started apologizing for my success or avoiding the topic. She said she was relieved I ended things when I did because she could see where that relationship was headed. We laughed and toasted our glasses, and I felt grateful to have family who supported me. 8 months into my director role, the company promoted me to Senior Director of Clinical Trials. My boss called me into her office on a Friday afternoon to tell me the executive team wanted to recognize my strong trial outcomes and leadership with increased responsibility. The promotion came with another salary increase and oversight of additional trial programs across multiple therapeutic areas. I would manage a larger team and work directly with the chief medical officer on strategic planning. I accepted immediately, without hesitation. That night, I called my parents, and my dad said he was proud of how I handled everything with Ryan and continued building my career. My mom said, "The right opportunities come when you are ready for them." The following week, and I was clearly prepared for this next step. At a coffee shop while grabbing my morning latte. He approached me cautiously and asked if he could speak to me. I felt tense, but agreed. He apologized for believing Ryan's version of events after the breakup and said several people in their friend group had distanced themselves from Ryan after seeing his social media behavior and hearing about the restraining order. He said Ryan had been telling people I was unstable and vindictive, but once the court records became public, people started questioning his claims. He said he regretted not reaching out sooner and wanted me to know not everyone believed Ryan's narrative. I thanked him and said I appreciated his apology. He wished me well and left. I stood there holding my coffee, feeling validated that others had finally seen the truth. Vanessa began asking during our sessions why I always downplayed my success by blaming luck or timing instead of acknowledging my work. I'd say things like, "I got promoted because the company needed someone," and she would stop me and remind me that I earned it through skill and effort. She had me practice saying out loud that I deserved my position and salary without adding qualifiers. It felt strange at first, almost uncomfortable. But she explained that women are often labeled negatively for confidence, while men are praised for it. We reviewed examples from my relationship where I had minimized my accomplishments to keep Ryan comfortable, like avoiding mention of conference presentations or softening positive feedback from my boss. Vanessa helped me understand that a supportive partner would celebrate my achievements, not expect me to hide them. She encouraged me to pay attention to when I apologized for taking up space or doing well. I realized I did it frequently at work and socially. Over several months, I practiced accepting compliments without brushing them off and speaking about my career with pride. Camila called one evening and said she had a coworker who was single and asked if I would like to meet him for coffee. I hesitated because dating felt complicated after Ryan, but she promised it would be casual. His name was Jason, and he worked in Camila's marketing department. We met at a coffee shop downtown on a Saturday afternoon. He asked about my job within the first few minutes and actually listened when I explained clinical trial management, instead of changing the subject or making jokes about me being in charge. Jason told me about a project he was leading, and we compared experiences managing teams and handling difficult stakeholders. The conversation was easy, with no competition or attempts to overshadow my accomplishments. We went on 2 more casual dates over the next month. The chemistry wasn't enough for anything serious, and we both acknowledged that. Still, the experience showed me that some men genuinely appreciate a partner with ambition. Camila called one evening and said she had a coworker who was single and feeling threatened by it. A year after I packed my things and left Ryan's apartment, I was sitting in my office reviewing quarterly reports for the 5 major trials my expanded team managed. My team had grown to 20 research coordinators and associates, all reporting to me, and we had successfully enrolled over 3,000 patients across multiple therapeutic areas. The senior director role came with a salary I never expected to earn at 32, plus stock options that were finally valuable. I had been on 3 more casual dates in recent months. None serious, but all positive experiences with people who respected my career. My calendar showed dinner with Camila tomorrow and brunch with my sister next weekend. The kind of consistent friendship time I had ignored during my relationship with Ryan. Then I reviewed my team's success metrics and felt genuinely proud without any internal voice telling me to tone it down or apologize. Choosing myself over Ryan's insecurity wasn't selfish, despite what he claimed. It was necessary to build the life I wanted instead of shrinking into the limited space he tried to confine me to. Well, that's the epic conclusion of pure mediocrity. If you're still watching, you clearly have commitment issues, and I respect that. Subscribe and let's make this bad habit official.